Next we shall consider the portfolio balance approach. We know that E is equal to R plus G and G is equal to R divided by RE minus 1. So G is dependent on R and G is dependent on RE. Now RE is unknown to the investor because RE is the future expected rate of interest. So this is unknown to the investor who is investing in the bond market. So therefore there is some amount of uncertainty associated with the investment in the bond market. So then we can say that G is also expected capital gain. So we cannot say for sure that the investor will get this much of capital gain. So it will depend on RE. If RE rises, then G falls. If RE falls, then G rises. So G basically depends on RE. So then we can say that G is also uncertain to the investor. So then we can consider the probability distribution of G. So we can attach some probability with the expected capital gain. Now we are assuming that the expected capital gain curve, the probability distribution curve for the capital gain takes the shape of a normal distribution. So this is a bell-shaped curve. So here we have the mean level of capital gain at the midpoint of the probability distribution curve for G. And we know that if we consider these two inflection points, then at this point the value of G is G bar plus sigma G, and here the value of G is G bar minus sigma G, where sigma G is the standard deviation of the capital gain. Now we can consider two types of probability distribution curve for G. One is the flatter curve, the other is the steeper curve. But both the curves have the same mean value of G, that is G bar. So what we can say from this diagram, we can say that for the flatter curve, the value of sigma G is less than the value of sigma G. The value of sigma G is greater than the value of sigma G of the steeper curve. So if this is curve 2 and if this is curve 1, then we can say that sigma G for curve 1 is greater than the sigma G of curve 2. So therefore the curve which is flatter has the greater standard deviation than the curve which is steeper. Now what this sigma G represents? Sigma G represents the riskiness associated with the investment in bond market. So when sigma G is greater, that means the riskiness associated with the investment in the bond market is high. So higher the value of sigma G, higher will be the risk associated with the investment in the bond market. Now from here we can find out the total amount of risk and total amount of return that the investor get by investing in the bond market. Suppose RT is the total return that the investor is getting. Now B is the total number of bonds the investor is buying. So then what is RT? RT is equal to E into B. Now here when we are considering this equation E is equal to R plus G, then we are assuming that there is no risk associated in investing in the bond market, because in that case we are not attaching any kind of probability to the capital gain. But here in the portfolio balance approach, we have introduced the uncertainty and we have attached some probability with the capital gain, and that is why we are getting the probability distribution curve for G, since we are attaching some probability to the capital gain, and therefore this equation can be modified to expectation of E is equal to R plus expectation of G. So here we are saying that the expected return from the bond depends on the rate of interest, actual rate of interest, and the expected capital gain. So higher the expected capital gain, higher is the return. And what is expectation of E? Expectation of E is basically the mean of E. So E bar is equal to R plus G bar. So this equation is modified to E bar is equal to R plus G bar. So when we are writing here total RT, total return, then RT is equal to E bar into B, E bar into the number of bonds that the investor is buying. Now E bar is the mean expected return from one bond, and this is the total expected return from the B number of bonds. Now what is E bar? E bar is equal to R plus G bar. So this E bar can be replaced by B into R plus G bar. Now what is the total risk associated with the investment in the bond market? So total risk is denoted by sigma T. So this is the total risk associated in the investment in the bond market. So sigma T is equal to B into sigma G, because sigma G is the standard deviation with the standard deviation of the variable of the random variable G, and this is the standard deviation of one bond. So when we are considering one bond, then we are getting this probability distribution curve for G. Now if there are B number of bonds, then the total risk associated with the investment in B number of bonds is equal to B into sigma G. So from here what we are getting? B is equal to sigma T by sigma G. So now this B can be replaced by this term. So then we are getting RT is equal to sigma T by sigma G into R plus G bar. Now from here we can get the budget constraint of the investment. So we are getting RT is equal to sigma T into R plus G divided by sigma G, and sigma T is equal to B into sigma G. Now we consider this diagram. Here we are considering the total return, here we are considering the total risk, and in the lower panel when we are going down we are considering the total bond holding, and if we go up then we can measure the total money holding. So this is the total amount of wealth the investor possesses. Now the budget constraint can be represented by this line. So this is what? This is dRT by d sigma t. Now what is this? This is equal to R plus G divided by sigma G. Now R is positive, G is positive, and sigma G, the standard deviation, is also positive. So in that case, this is a positive slope curve. So higher return is associated with the higher amount of risk. Now here in the lower panel, if we go down, then we can measure the amount of bond holding, and if we move from left to right, then we can measure the total amount of risk. So basically, this line represents D of sigma T dB. Now from here, what is D sigma T dB? This is equal to sigma G. So this is a positive slope curve like this. Now we consider the indifference curves of the investors. Here we are assuming the investor is a risk averter. That means he doesn't want to take risk. So then, for getting higher amount of risk, he will have to get the higher amount of return. Then only he can take higher amount of risk. So in that case, his or her indifference curves are taking the shapes like this. Now here where will be the equilibrium? If this is the budget line, then the indifference curve, the tangent to this indifference curve, the tangent of the budget line to this indifference curve is at this point. So here will be the equilibrium. So here, what is the amount of bond holding and what is the amount of money holding by the individual? So if this is the equilibrium, so from here we can measure the total amount of risk associated with the investment in the bond market. Now if this is sigma T, then what is the amount of bond holding? The amount of bond holding is this much, and then the amount of money holding is this much. So here the investor is dividing his wealth into bond and money. So basically he is a diversifier. So he is putting his wealth, he is putting some portion of his wealth into bond and the rest of the portion of his wealth into money. So he is basically a diversifier here. So this is figure 1. So when he is a diversifier, so in this case, this will be the equilibrium. And this is his level of wealth. So he is investing in both money and wealth. Now in the second case, we are considering the investor who is a plunger. That means he is putting his wealth entirely into money or entirely into bond. So in that case, this is his equilibrium point. So here suppose these are the indifference curves. So here at this point the indifference curve cuts the budget line. So here will be the equilibrium. So when this is the equilibrium, then what is his level of bond holding? His level of bond holding is this one as per this curve. So therefore he is investing all his wealth into bond. So here he is basically plunger. The other extreme case can be represented by this curve. So these are the indifference curve of the investors. So here at this point the indifference curve is cutting the budget line. So here will be the equilibrium. Now when this is the equilibrium, as per this curve, if this is the total level of wealth, as per this curve, what will be the level, what will be the total bond holding by the individual? The bond holding is 0, because we are measuring the bond holding this way. So here, when he is at this point, his bond holding is 0. That means he is putting his entire wealth into money. So here also he is a plunger. So in these two extreme cases, he is either putting all his wealth into money or into bond. So here he is putting all his wealth into money, and here he is putting all his wealth into money. So in both the cases, he is a plunger. But here he is a diversifier, because he is putting some portion of his wealth into money and he is putting the other portion of his wealth into bond. So here he is a diversifier. But in these three cases, in all these three cases, we are assuming that the investor is a risk averter. That is, he doesn't want to take risk. If he has to take more risk, then he has to get higher amount of return. Then only he can take more risk, because he is a risk averter. Now we are considering the case of a risk lover. So for an investor who is a risk lover, the indifference curves are all negatively sloped. Now here, along the y-axis, we are measuring the total amount of return, and along the x-axis, we are measuring the total amount of risk. So now, what these indifference curves are saying? These indifference curves are saying that for getting higher amount of risk, he can sacrifice return. So for getting, because he wants to take more risk, because he is a risk lover. So in that case, for getting higher amount of risk, he can sacrifice. He is willing to sacrifice the return from the bond. So in this case, we will get the indifference curves as negatively sloped curves. So here, where will be the equilibrium? The equilibrium will be here, because at this point, the indifference curve cuts the budget line. So here will be the equilibrium. Now when this is the equilibrium, then as per this curve, which is in the lower panel, what is his total amount of bond holding? His bond holding is equal to the amount of wealth that he possesses. Because he is a risk lover, so he can take the risk in the bond market, and then in that case, he will put his entire wealth into bond. Now we derive the demand for money curve. So here we are considering the case of the diversifier. So here we are measuring RT, here we are measuring sigma T, and here we are measuring the bond holding and money holding. So if we go down, then we can measure the bond holding. If we go up, then we can measure the money holding. So this is the total amount of wealth, and the individual is a diversifier. So suppose initially the equilibrium was here. So when the equilibrium is here, then as per this curve, the individual's bond holding is this much. And now what is the value of this budget line? The value of the budget line is R plus G bar by sigma G. R plus G bar by sigma G. Now as R increases, then this budget line gets steeper. So when R increases, the budget line rotates anti-clockwise, and then the budget line becomes, the new budget line is here. So here the equilibrium will be at this point. So when the equilibrium is occurring here, then his bond holding is this much. Now when R rises further, then equilibrium point moves here, and then his bond holding also increases. So what we can observe from here, as rate of interest rises, the bond holding rises. Now if bond holding rises, then money holding falls because the total amount of wealth is constant. So if bond holding rises with the increase in rate of interest, then money holding falls. So now if we draw the demand curve for money curve, then we will have a negatively sloped curve. So along the x-axis, we are measuring the money holding M by P, and along the y-axis, we are measuring the rate of interest. So as rate of interest rises, money holding falls and bond holding rises. So here also in this curve we can observe that as rate of interest rises, the money holding falls. So therefore the demand for money curve is a negatively sloped